Welcome and thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you're having an excellent day so far. There was, of course, a new episode of Better Call Saul that debuted last night titled JMM, and there are quite a few things to discuss, so let's get right into it. Quite a few things surprised me this past episode. First of all, I really thought Kim would be done with Jimmy, or at the very least extremely taken aback by what he did last episode, but they decide to fast-track the marriage, and their relationship seems to be replenished to a certain extent, especially for Kim. Now, the rationale for the marriage makes sense, although I was surprised to see Kim as gleeful as she was before and after the marriage. Maybe she believes she finally has a predictable hold on Jimmy. I'm not quite sure, but it was pretty surprising to see. I think it's safe to say that Kim really does love Jimmy. Her actions throughout the series have proved as much, but I think her optimism in this situation is a product of self-deception. Especially when they're going through the vows, it's kind of hard to watch because you know that Jimmy is lying through his teeth when he says, "I do." Now, that's not to say he doesn't care a great deal about Kim, because he certainly does, but he does not care as much about her as he does for his own interests, and that's pretty hard to dispute. I'm also starting to get the feeling that Kim signing that marriage certificate is also Kim signing her own death warrant. And I say that because in this episode, we finally arrive at the top of the hill, if you will. When Lalo steps into the courtroom, I got the instant feeling that Jimmy is on a steep downward slope at this point. In Breaking Bad, Lalo is the guy that Saul really fears, and that's not something to look past, because in Breaking Bad, he's afraid of very few people. Because he's one hell of a talker and a con man, he can get himself out of almost every situation. But he really terrifies Saul, and I suspect that fear comes from the fact that Lalo is going to be responsible for Kim's death. Now, that's just a prediction. I definitely could be wrong. Maybe she does go the vacuum route. That's the other big theory. But the show's tone is getting extremely dark, especially with the grading and the lighting, and the showrunners have never been afraid to display the brutal consequences that bad choices can create. We also get a short scene with Mike in this episode where he reminisces about his past and his son, and it kind of felt like a throwaway scene until he says, "I've decided to play the hand I've been dealt," and he says that to his daughter-in-law. Mike does seem more and more like the character he is in Breaking Bad, especially recently, and it's an interesting line because I think he's come to an acceptance that his skill set, what he's good at, he's meant for this line of work, and he's just going to make the best of it. And that makes sense, and I do not expect a major character arc for Mike for the remainder of the show. I think he'll just drift further and further into his allegiance to Gus. Speaking of the Chicken King, Giancarlo Esposito is at his very best in this episode. We've had a lot of scenes recently of Gus playing the intimidating drug lord, middle of the night silhouette shots. I forgot how entertaining it is to watch Gus play people with his charm and charisma. It's an incredible performance, and I really enjoyed his scenes this episode. It was also very nice to see Lydia again. I've always enjoyed her character, and I love how she just casually presents the option of offing Lalo in prison. Mike was not kidding when he told Walt and Jesse how cold that woman can be, because she really will do anything to benefit her position. And obviously this will not be the last time Lydia makes such a proposal to a drug lord. As we get closer and closer to Breaking Bad, the looming actions of Walter White feel to be more in the air now, which is pretty cool, and I'd be shocked if we don't see him in some capacity before Better Call Saul concludes. Now, the title of the episode is a pretty clear use of symbolism. The choice for Jimmy now is rather clear-cut. Do you live up to the name of your brother, Chuck, and his legacy, "Justice Matters Most," or do you trade justice for money? The question is not open-ended. We know what Jimmy chooses, but the final scene in the episode sheds a lot of light on why he makes the decision that he does. Chuck's death is clearly still eating away at him, and blaming Howard for his death is just another clear sign of that. But the idea that Howard, the member of a huge law firm, thinks that he has the power to make amends simply by offering Jimmy a job, that really pisses him off, and I understand it to a certain extent. Being a friend of the cartel grants you two things: money and power. Now, it also comes with a lot of side effects. Just ask Marty Byrde about that. But having those two things would give Jimmy the ability to support people he likes and ruin people he doesn't like. It's kind of like a Sauron's ring scenario, and we know, based on how afraid Jimmy is of Lalo, that his attempt to hold on to the ring costs him big time. As I mentioned before, I think losing Kim is going to be the loss that Jimmy has to suffer. And I could be wrong, I'm typically wrong about this type of stuff, but Lalo is not someone who you can just betray and get away with it. And I don't think the showrunners would allow Lalo to die before making a serious impact on the story. There are now only 3 episodes left in the season, so shit is going to go down in these next few episodes. I cannot wait. Thank you so much for watching the video. Tell me what you thought about JMM in the comments section. I thought it was superb. And also, I like how AMC had that little Saul Good moment, kind of an ad in regards to the virus and what's going on. That was really, really cool. But anyways, I hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Hopefully I will talk to you soon. Have a good one.